Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our new studio. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. I see some excitement on some faces when we got started there. I'm going to chat a little bit about who are these people behind me coming up for August. Lots of exciting folks that we're excited about. We see some familiar faces, and we see some faces that, anyway, that's another show. I know John knows who I'm talking about. But anyway, let's get started. Welcome to Monday. We are really excited to have Richie here. I'm going to introduce Richie in a second. Before we do that, couple housekeeping things. You do got the chat room there. And, that's a great opportunity for us to at least know where you are. This gives an opportunity for myself and Richie to know, where are you guys at? What type of business do you do? And then that way we could be able to kind of see who we have in the room. A couple things at any point, if you have questions or comments, feel free to go into the chat section and drop some information there. I think that is great for us to know. As well, the format today is really going to chat with Richie a little bit about reset. What does that mean? What does a gamer know about reset besides resetting the system? I'm actually quite curious, so we're going to find out a little bit about that. As well as we're going to do a quick chat. What does it mean? What is the mindset when we talk about, gaming and reset? As well as an opportunity to get really clear and really focused on information. What should you be doing? What should you be working at least this week to get you to the next side of it? And then if you have any questions or comments, please do ask. We may call on you if you're not shy, and we may ask you a little bit, or we just read the comments and pretty much go from there as well. And again, I believe Richie's going to stick around for about 15 minutes or so after for some really deep questions. That's the after a meeting kind of segment. We want to be able to get into that. My name is Coach Kalloo. Again, every week we bring you this Monday Mindset, an opportunity for us to reset and get really clear on your week. I just want to touch really briefly some of the folks that we do have coming up in August. You could probably see them here. Let me just step out of the way a little bit here. So we do have coming up, we have August 3rd, we have Raman, she's coming back. We have Andrew Forbes, who's going to be coming again. August 10th is his first time. August 17th, we have Dr. Michael Breen, and then we have the infamous Christopher Lawrence to talk about some healthy transformation. And then we have Craig Turbett, who's going to be here as well on the 31st. And so we're excited for that. Okay, I think everyone is here or needs to be here. Let's get right into this. Let me introduce you to this guy so we could have a great conversation about gaming. So we have Richie Migneault, and Richie spent most of his life as an athlete competing at everywhere from the club level to international competition, which drove him to pursue an education in kinesiology, good Lord, and physical literacy. Richie, you're going to have to correct me on that. During his undergrad, he developed an interest in psychology and its relationship to sport and performance. And from this, he developed a taste for high performance coaching and started a career training high performance athletes. Eventually, he found this wasn't where he wanted to be anymore, and we see a lot of that too, right? So it's like sometimes you have to figure it out, and decided to return to post-secondary to pursue an education as a paramedic. Interesting. At a young age, he says as a young age, look at him. Okay, at a young age, he also was fascinated by video games. This has never stopped today as he uses his fascination for video games to help reset his mind and alleviate the common workplace stress and athletic-based stress. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and if Christopher was here, him too, welcome Richie. Richie, did I miss anything?
No, I think you pretty much got everything there. So my education was in kinesiology and physical literacy. So basically the layman's term, that's just how the body moves and how we can make it move better. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us would benefit from knowing a little bit more about what that is. And so what happened? So you went from that and then so paramedic and then gaming. Like, is there a connection between it all besides you?
There's no linear connection really. So when you're thinking about it, it's not like point A, point B, like they're right there. So how I've kind of used it is I've used it as a way to not only de-stress from maybe a hard day in university writing papers, trying to get my mind off of just, okay, flexion, extension, hypertrophy, everything like that, anything scientific based or anything. So just kind of clearing my mind, or just having a really bad day. I've had not the most stressful jobs in the world. I'm not like a surgeon or a rocket scientist or anything like that, but some trauma happens in the workplace or something like that. It's a good way to just kind of clear your mind. And like I said, like the topic is hitting reset. So you can just kind of start fresh.
Right. And so with everything that's going on, the pandemic has hit a lot of different people, and we have people who take their business now into the homes, and they're trying to make that stuff work. And I don't think people realize, at least in the first couple of weeks, they didn't realize how stressful this was. And so when you think about reset and gaming, how can gaming really help someone? Really, because I've never really played video games. I think the last video game I played was Nintendo Shoot the Duck, and so that just tells you how ancient I am. But that's the last video game. But I've seen people play video games, like Christopher's Brothers, and it's intense. So how is that resetting?
So that's the thing. There's so many different variations of video games. So it's not just those intense moments where you hear someone screaming and yelling and getting upset. That might do it for some people. That catharsis, that outlet, that might be what people need. So they need to be loud and be rambunctious and yell and get that adrenaline rush from the video game. But there's also so many other types of video games out there that are just relaxing and soothing. And it's more about the journey or the experience you're on when you're there, or the storytelling or something like that. So there's always something different for each person. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions, is video games are just action all the time. And that's one of the misconceptions about it. But there is just games where it's just about a story, and it's a visual representation of reading a book that you have some influence over. So there's that bit to it. And then there's just, you're into a different world where you can just kind of forget about what's going on. So essentially it's an escape. It'd be like reading a book that you're really into and you get lost into the book. So in that sense, it's just an escape from whatever's going on in your day-to-day life that you're stressed about or having trouble processing or anything like that. It just gives you a break for that hour, that 2 hours, however long you want to play. Half an hour is fine, to just kind of unwind and forget about the day-to-day stress, really.
Especially the project that you have due, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I find what you said just really struck me there, is that although it's high intensity, sometimes, like you said, there's some games that can be, but isn't that also distraction, right? Because it allows you, if you have to be in it, to be that intense with it, it's breaking from the norm, which is really what it is, right? So even if you go from one high of your business or life to another high, which is, again, playing a video game, you have to kind of be intense with it, allows that too, right? I mean, that's one area, at least I'm thinking. Now, do you find in video games itself, like, are adults playing it, or is it, because Catherine has the impression that it's really, millennials or under 30 or, 20-year-olds that play video games all day. Like, what do you see? Like, who are people? Like, how does it even work? I'm sorry, Richie, there's a lot of questions there, but you got all.
No worries. We'll kind of bounce around because there's a few things I wanted to touch on that you said there. But yeah, just basically, I know my generation, so I'm a millennial. I'm 26 years old. So my generation is kind of the first generation that's coming up that really stuck to video games. There's generations before us that had video games as they were growing up, and some people stuck with it, and it's just kind of a hobby that they have, or it's kind of like their hush hush, don't talk about it, I play video games, and it's still kind of seen that way. But I know my generation, there's no shame in it anymore. Honestly, it's something that we do in our pastime. Obviously, with the incline of popularity in video games and the quality of video games and the storytelling and everything like that, it becomes more mainstream to just kind of, it's like reading a book now, right? So I wouldn't say there's a lot of gamers of every age, but there is gamers of every age, from like young kids that barely know what they're doing to older folks that came out when the Atari first came out and they just want to like relive that experience and everything, and then, so I'll bounce back to one of the things you first said that kind of ticked one of the boxes I wanted to cover was the mindfulness, right? So if you're going all day thinking about work, you're a business owner. I mean, I'm speaking out of place here. I have no idea how to run a business or what a business owner is being a business owner is. But if that's what you're thinking about day, and all day, every day, taking that second or that hour or that even 30 minutes to kind of shift what your mindset is and where you're spending most of your mental energy to a video game where you can kind of just set that aside is one of the big things, because it is one of those things where you have to be mindful of what you're doing when you're playing video games. It's not like you can just sit there and play video games and multitask. It's going to draw your attention in and draw your attention away from maybe one of the situations that you're dealing with that's causing you a lot of stress, or situations that's maybe troubling you or causing you to really forget why you're doing what you're doing, so it'll draw you away so you can get a different perspective when you go back.
I really like that, because, we often say in coaching that no one can really maintain a certain way of thinking at all times. Like there has to be a reset. And sometimes either you're going to do it willingly or your body will do it for you. Right. And I think that's where you could probably talk a little about how that body piece work as well. But we often find, and we call it transitions in coaching, right? It's just around, you get to one thing, you have to transition to something else and then do something else instead of going from intensity, because sometimes that could really wear on you. So what I'm hearing is there's an ability to say, hey, you know what, let me just turn work off and do something else. Because if you just sit there, work doesn't just turn off, right? This is like, and we have some diehard business owners. I see them on here. They're diehard business owners, and look at them. They're already smiling because they know their name, and they go all the time. And so it's like, what can they do, right? So what would you say to someone who is considering, I'm asking for Catherine, but what can you say to someone? Catherine, it's you. Carmel, you got a break this morning. But what can you say to someone who maybe have no idea, because maybe they did last time they played was Atari or Nintendo. How do they transition to that mindset of getting into games? Like right now, there's so many options.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's just try something, right? It could be, I'm not saying go out and build yourself $1,000 PC so you can play anything you want, but try something small. Try like your kids' PlayStation, or try a mobile game or something along those lines until you want to take that dive into actually making the purchase, because it is an investment, making the purchase to buy a console or buy a PC or something along those lines. But just try something. There's so many different options out there that you can, I'm sure there's something that you'll like. Even if you don't get it on the first try, I'm not saying everyone should go out and play Call of Duty, because that's obviously the big game that everyone talks about in the gaming circles, and it sells millions of copies every year and blah, blah, blah. That's a little intense to start, I think, for most people, especially if you're not a gamer. But just try something. You might find something that is very simple that you didn't think you would like, that just, it hits that reset button for you, and it'll take you away from that mindset of just go all the time. So you can have that half an hour to yourself to just be like, okay, I can take a different perspective from this problem I need to approach, or this situation that needs my attention, right?
Speaking of attention, growing up in the school I went to, there was lots of priests. And one of the things that we often, and not for those, my goodness, we're on podcast now, so I have to really be careful how I say certain things, as Christopher keeps warning me. But it's my story, right? Which is growing up, so I had a lot of priests, and, there were teachers or mentors, and video games weren't really endorsed, right? We were kind of said, layman's term, it's not really a good thing. You're not going to learn anything by playing video games. That was the conversation, right? You're not going to learn anything. So we really saw it as something that you don't. But is there really functions that, you think of a business owner or someone in general in life, what can you really learn from video games, really? Oh, I think you're muted there.
Yeah, I muted myself. Sorry. There's tons of research, and I could spout off a bunch of articles about, okay, it increases reaction time, reflexes. But the biggest thing I think for any kind of business owner, or someone who's not looking to be like a fighter pilot or something like that, is you learn how to learn skills faster, right? So if you break it down into the thought of actually like the mindset and everything like that, I can go back to my education here a little, but you learn skills by learning other skills. So if I learn something new, I'm going to be better at learning something else new the following day and the following day and the following day. If I'm constantly teaching myself how to do something new, it's going to increase the synapses in my brain, and I'm going to be able to actually learn new things faster. So it's not going to take me as long to learn a new skill. So that happens in every video game you play. There's obviously some kind of introduction period where you have to learn. I mean, obviously the hard skills are the same. It's button presses or aiming or following a path or something like that. But you have to learn little integral things about the game that need to be refined over time. So it's building on those synapses, and you're going to build a better I can't talk right now. Neuroplasticity, right? Yeah. It's going to increase that neuroplasticity, and you're going to be able to learn faster. Maybe not everybody the same, but that's going to be the main thing outside of like, okay, yeah, reflex time and reaction speed and blah, 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 blah.
I like that because, this is why those who teach adults, there's a little bit tougher period because they've been out of the schooling for so long, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes for some people it's back to university. And so we find that, teaching them is a little bit harder, right? And we can't do it in bigger numbers. And so we do that sometimes with even facilitation. So as coaches, when we are out there facilitating, if it's a really intense subject we're covering, we could see some people struggle with the learning of the concept. But the companies that we go back to and we do continuous learning, like every month or 2 months, we're there, we find they pick it up a lot faster, right? When you create an environment that there's constant learning, I think people overall will do really well. I always say this to business owners too, like in organizations said, no one has ever quit a job and said, those guys are always training me. They're always letting me learn things. Like, I can't believe the amount of learning I have to do. Like, I need to get out of this job. No one has ever said that because I think there's something innate in us that wants to learn a new task. And I like what you said there, Richie, is once you pick certain thing up, you're more motivated to pick up the other thing, to then try the next game. Or in your case, maybe sometimes it's going to the next level. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm actually, I don't know if I want to put this public accountability out there for myself, but I may want to play a video game with you, Richie. I may get on. I may actually do that. Maybe we should record that. Can you record these things?
Yeah.
To see how I did. I don't know. If people want to see that, let me know in the comments or whatever. I mean, I think it would be a disaster, but I mean, I'm sure I'd have a good time with it. If I could do TikTok, I could do this. I mean, it's not much of a transition. So Richie, for people who, based on kind of stuff we were talking about, resetting and, resetting the mind for ourselves as well. Is there one or two things that you'd like to suggest to people who are listening today as far as how can they reset?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said before, just give it a shot. Like I'm not saying it's for everybody. You could go out there and try 50 games and hate every single one of them. It just might not be for you. You might just want to read a book instead. But I'd say the biggest thing is, just get out there and try something. It's the same vein as like, just try something new. Like if you're never trying anything new, you're not learning, you're not building your skill set. So I'd say get out there, try it. Don't be discouraged if the first time you play a game, you just lose constantly. Because that's when it's going to happen, right? You can look at either athletic or scholarly or anyone like that. They're always saying like failing is the best way to learn. It's going to be the same thing in video games. That's just how it is. So don't be discouraged by getting out there and sucking at video games. It's just no one is good at anything they start. So, sorry, I just keep getting distracted by the comments about Netflix now. And outside of that, it's just it's going in with the open mindset about it too. It's not just like, okay, this is just to waste time or something like that. Like you can learn skills from it, and you can. You got to get out what you put into it, right? So if you're just going into to waste time and to relax, that's perfectly fine too. I'm not saying that you need to be learning all the time or honing your skills all the time, but if you're using this as a reset or as a way to kind of get your brain more active and stuff like that, then you need to have that mindset going into it. This is one of the things I told my athletes all the time when I was coaching was you need to be thinking about what you're doing at all times if you want to get better at something, right? So if you're not thinking about what you're going to do, then you're just wasting time. And like I said, there's no problem with that if you just need to reset your brain. But if you're going into this and you want to use this as like as some way to build your mental capacity or your neuroplasticity or something like that, you need to be thinking about that, and you need to be conscious of what you're doing.
I love that. You really unpacked a whole bunch of things there, but I want to touch on a couple things. And I think after the meeting, I want to connect with you in that after meeting segment, just some of your favorite games and why a little bit. But I'm curious, when we talk about being mindful, and that's the thing that we constantly say, you have to know, with purpose, what are you doing right now? What are you focused on right now? Because if you don't do that, you get to the end of the day and think, okay, what did I do today? Like, I was just busy, right? I was just busy instead of being mindful. And I hear that what you're saying, Richie, is just, regardless of what you're doing, is being present, right? Being aware of what is currently happening. Even if you suck at it, just be aware that, hey, this sucks. I'm going to get through it. Or I'm doing really well. I'm doing really well in this aspect. So I'm curious, because I saw Les's comment there as well, when he talked about, what about VR gaming and learning for us older folks, right? Is there an ideal game that you would say, beginners, this is the game to start, like, at least so we know? I'm asking for Catherine again.
That's a difficult question because there's no blanket game. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of options. So it's going to really come down to what interests you. Are you more interested in the story? Are you more interested in something a little more high paced? Are you interested in just kind of something beautiful or cinematic? That's really what it's going to come down to is what are you looking for? And then from there, you can kind of split off into the genres, right?
I would say to people who are listening and watching today, don't do something that's in your norm. So if you're more like Sunday stroll, if you're more, I'm interested in a story and all that stuff, what Richie just said, I want you, and I'm going to challenge you to do something that's going to scare you. I want you to step into something that is going to scare you, right? Because there's something about your adrenaline that gets there. I'm not talking about boogeyman scare. I'm talking about the things where you're like, this looks tough. I have no idea where to start, and just start. Because I think when you look back at your own experiences and your own life, folks, you see that you got so much further on the things that challenged you, right? And I think about, my own education of those teachers that challenged me the most are the ones that I was more afraid of than the devil. I actually learned a lot by them. I learned a whole bunch of stuff. And so I would say to you guys, if you are going to do some games, do one that's going to be like, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin. That's my advice, Richie. I don't know what you think about that. Maybe I'm putting people down a different path, but what do you say to that?
No, I'd agree with that. And then that's just the same as like, try something outside of your wheelhouse. Like it just going to hammer the point home of just like, try something new. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, then you found something new you love. Right. And then just to bounce back to that point about the VR, VR is an amazing tool to use, not only for entertainment purposes, but teaching skills and actually getting some kind of fine motor control when it comes to learning. So just a quick point on that. I could talk about that for another half an hour if we wanted to, but that is also a really good tool. Again, big expense if you want to get a proper VR headset and go for it. But I would recommend. I've tried it. It's really fun.
Yeah. Some of those VR stuff is a little bit uncanny.
Yeah, you also have to be really careful if you get motion sick at all. So if you've ever been on a boat and felt a little queasy, I would not recommend VR because you're instantly going to want to feel like lying down and throwing up for a while.
It's like the 3D stuff, right? I mean, Christopher loves to go to those movies, and there's times where I'm like, some movies, I'm like, okay, I don't need to be in the action. I'm okay to watch the action. Yeah. I don't need to be in the action. I have enough things, before anyone says anything, I have enough things that scares me. So, Richie, before we kind of wrap up, how do people get a hold of you? What are you doing? Are you helping people through this? Is there other things that you do that you want to connect with people on?
Yeah, absolutely. So Catherine just put my information into the chat. So if anyone wants to get a hold of me and ask me some more questions or anything like that after this, or just kind of have a chat with me about something a little more specific, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than comfortable to just have a little video call or something along those lines, or email back and forth about anything we talk to, or if you kind of want to explore down the avenue of YouTube or Twitch or anything like that, I can give suggestions on anything of that nature. Yeah, mostly I'm here to help, right? Like, I just want to chat with people and give them my perspective and see if I can kind of clear the air a little bit about anything video game related or entertainment wise. One of the things I did just mention there was Twitch. So that's one of the main platforms people like myself play video games on and other people watch. So another way to reset is, if you not necessarily want to play, but you want to see someone sit there and talk, or someone who's really good at games, not me. I'm not one of those people. Someone who's really good, just play through something and really see a high level of skill set in that regard. Twitch.tv is a good place to go for that. And you can check out all kinds of different games and streams, and there's music and people just on there talking podcast style. So that's another resource you can look into. If maybe playing the video games, or you're not really sure about how to pull the trigger on playing a video game yet, that's a good place to start, just to see maybe what you like, what you want to play, something along those lines.
I really like that. And, you know, because some people do find it engaging. It allows them to transition as well if they're able to watch, right? And I think just at least to see what that looks like. So Twitch is where you're obviously at. I'd love to see it on the other side, right? What does that look like? You know, you kind of get into that action, which is makes sense. Any questions for Richie before we kind of wrap up here? Because I see some comments too around, you know, what games can you play? How do you even start? And if it becomes too stressful, is that really working or not, right? I mean, and I think that was one of Les's points as well. Okay, folks, if you're able to stick around for the after meeting, where I'm going to ask Richie a little bit about his favorite games and find out what that looks like. And what about a guy like me? I'd love to hear your impression of what game you think I can probably play. I'd like to hear that. And for those who don't need to hear that, you don't need to be here for that. And again, if this is something that you like and enjoy, please, subscribe to this, show up, register. We always play this again, so you're able to listen to it. And if you're on our podcast, check out the next episode that actually comes up. We always have amazing people who are here just kind of doing their thing and sharing with us their perspective of how to get clarity and bring us to the next level. And so if that is something that you're interested in, by all means, you could always share this information. Even the emails that you do get, please let us know. Richie, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Catherine did give the information in the chat. If you do need more, please let us know. We're going to do a quick outro. My name is Coach Kalloo again, and thank you so much for being here. Next week we will have, it's a holiday, but we're still going to be here with Raman Shahan who's going to be co-hosting Think Like a Recruiter, so you don't want to miss that. Thank you all. Hope everyone has a fantastic week, and thank you for being here today again, and we will see you in a couple minutes. Richie, that was fantastic. Catherine, if you can unmute for a second, I'm just going to pick on you for a second, Catherine.
Oh, good.
So, Catherine, how was that for you? Like, what do you think about gaming?
Well, so this is a whole thing. I haven't done it, obviously, but my kids, they used to have Sims and Harvest Moon and all these things. So we're going back a while, Nintendo, all these things. So, I mean, if you're going to start off, you just need your computer, right? Like, you don't need any special equipment. Yeah. Okay.
No, you could just do it on a basic PC and start somewhere.
But what about Mac? Can you do anything on a Mac?
Yep. You're limited a little bit by what games you can play, because obviously developers develop for certain software, so they just sometimes don't develop for Mac or anything like that. But there's still obviously tons of games you can play, and you might run into a few issues as far as latency and lag and stuff like that. But for the most part, you should be able to play most things.
So
what about?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Catherine. Oh, don't let me stop you.
Oh, okay, so yeah. What about playing with other people?
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Was my question, yeah.
So, at least on PC, it's really easy. There's a whole bunch of different networks you can go through. The biggest one is it's called Steam. So you can set up a Steam account. It has all your games in a library, and you can have friends. And if your friends have those games, most games have a co-op feature now of some capacity, unless they're strictly meant for a solo playthrough or a single player game, where you can play through, and there's cooperative or competitive or something along those lines, some mishmash of the two, that you could be working together, or you can work against each other or sabatage each other, or just try to completely screw the other person over. There's a whole bunch of
sounds a lot like life. That sounds like life.
Yeah, exactly.
You just described business and life. Yeah. Just to piggyback off what Catherine just said, just a little bit about the followers and stuff like that, because that really is a community. And I guess people are just everywhere in the world, as I think people are more connected than not.
Yeah, absolutely. So just speaking from experience, so like I said, I do stream on Twitch every once in a while. Well, a lot. And then, so I have a few followers all over the place, primarily because of when I stream and the content I stream. Most of them are North American. But there's a few people that pop in every once in a while, and we'll get talking and be like, oh yeah, I'm from Thailand, or I'm from Denmark, or something like that. So the audience is obviously worldwide. So there's so many ways to connect different people. I mean, we live in an age where you need to be a little careful of who you talk to and who you connect with in what fashion. You're not just giving out personal information, obviously, but that's a whole different topic. But yeah, so the possibility of connections is endless, and the people you can meet, in quotations, is enormous, right? Anyone who has access to an internet connection and a simple PC can get connected, right?
Right. Yeah. People usually say they need an adult around me. Is that what they mean by that? Just Carmel, I did that just for you. Okay. So Richie, Catherine, did I get all your questions? Because I mean, I don't want to get in the way of you getting onto your gaming this evening. So. Richie, I mean, I know I've said this to you already before, so this is not new information, but it happens also with, Christopher's brother as well, is the piece around, it almost sounds like you guys are a different person when you're playing, like the words that comes out of your mouth, how you're in it, like what is happening that causes that to just...
It's hard to explain. It's when you become engulfed in the game and you take on the persona of whoever your character is or whatever you're playing, and you really forget, okay, I'm just sitting in a chair in front of a monitor or in front of a TV or something like that, right. And you actually get into it and you become emotionally invested. So that's when you hear, not everybody, but a lot of people will scream or yell or throw their controller or something like that. Don't recommend, they're expensive. But something along those lines where you become invested in the story or you become invested in the character. So that's when the screaming and yelling, or in cooperative situations, your teammate isn't doing what you want them to do. So you need to scream and yell at them a little bit. But yeah, it's again back to that becoming invested in something and that mindset about being engaged by it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're engaged, you're going to be more likely to have that emotional attachment to it. And emotional attachment is a very loose term. I'm not saying you're going to break down into tears if your character dies or something like that. But
yeah, I've never heard you do that. I've never heard you do that.
No, never. There's no weeping coming from my room at all. But becoming invested in the sense that, like, you are mindful of what's going on. So we're always going to come back to that mindful piece. You're mindful of what's going on, and you have put the time into something, right?
And I'm going to take some questions and just see how folks, feel today. Because what's nice about even this morning's Monday Mindset is it's a little bit nice to have a shift just from all business, right? Because we're usually
Mm-hmm.
talking about some strategies and stuff that goes on. So it's nice to actually just kind of observe and watch. And I think what some folks are doing right now, just to observe about a completely different area, maybe an area that's quite foreign to most people on here today. I'm not sure, and I'm curious to find out about that. One of the things I think is just, it's like when you watch, like I love watching sports when it's like playoffs or
Mm-hmm.
there's something like the regular routine stuff. I'm not really, because it's not as engaging for me. Or
Mm-hmm.
I can go to a live game. Like I love watching a live, either a rugby match or basketball or even hockey. If it's live, completely different. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you were just talking about that, I got a sense that people who like those things are probably more inclined to gaming as well, because
Mm-hmm.
they get a chance to be a part of that action.
Yeah. I mean, and that's its whole other world, is the esports world of professional gaming and people who get paid to go to these tournaments. And there's very specific games and very high level strategy that obviously, if you're a big football fan, you'd understand like, okay, this needs to happen and this needs to happen. And there's this strategy for this play and this strategy for this play. And so there's that in the world of gaming too, which it's not, I'm not going to say it's for everybody as well. That's even more niche, watching someone play at a high level or something like that. But it does give that same sense of you're watching someone who's the best at what they do, and it's almost becomes an art form of how can they do that so fast, and the reaction time and just knowing their craft so well. I think that's what impresses me the most. And then obviously that tension of the high stakes, and you get invested into, okay, is this person going to win? Like, who's going to win? What's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. John McIntyre, would love to hear from you. Look at that, as you just said something. I'm reading your mind, John. John, how's this been? Like, tell me a little bit about what you just said, but as well as what you're taking in from today.
Okay, good morning, Richie.
Good morning.
Yeah, so what I'm kind of taking in, if you just see that last comment I threw in chat, because Kyle can read my mind, there's no two ways about it. Are we talking about reset in terms of let's get away from the norm? Let's go, like you said, outside your wheelhouse. Like Kyle said, do something to scare you. And this is a little bit of a personal thing, because you're 26, you said?
Yeah.
I'm more than twice your age, my friend. And when I was kind of 26, my reset button at university was a game called Bridge. And, like it was good to kind of break away, except the problem with Bridge became it got more important to me than actually going to school.
Mm-hmm.
So is this a situation that can happen with video games? Or, my context of the chat was, is it just to relax and break away? Because like Kyle said, some of us on the call, maybe all of us on this call, get right into business and never quit.
Yeah.
It's 25 hours a day.
Yeah. So it's whatever it evolves to for you. So if it's, we'll jump back. It can become an unhealthy obsession. It's like anything else. Like if you're playing video games for 6 hours a day and you're supposed to be working for those 6 hours or whatever it is, 10 hours, whatever, then obviously that becomes an unhealthy obsession, and that's a different problem altogether. So it, like anything with moderation, right? Which can also be sent to the work sense of you're a business owner, 25 hours a day, you need to kind of hit that reset and maybe take that 25th hour and just relax. So it is whatever you want it to be, really. So if you want it to be breaking away and relaxing and taking yourself completely out of the business sense, then that's what you're going to use it for. If you're using it for developing soft skills, then that's what it's going to be. It's going to evolve with what you do with it, right? So I would say everyone should just start with taking it as an opportunity just to relax and get away from business, right? Because that seems to be, especially with this crowd, that seems to be what the biggest thing is. It's business all the time. Go, 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 go. We're finding different ways to do things, different ways to make our business more effective. And one of the things I could suggest is just step away and then come back with a fresh perspective is what's going to be. So relax, break away from business, and then come back to it with a new set of eyes.
Right. And then thank you for that, Richie. The flip side of that as well is anything that is distracting you from doing your core purpose, your number one priority, which may be your business, either working with your employees as well as also your customers and clients, then that's a different conversation. Why is that distracting you, right? And if it's not video games, you're going to find something else. You're going to find drinking, you're going to find eating, you're going to find smoke, you're going to find something. And so anything that takes you away from your top priority, we need to have a conversation about, right? Because why is that? Because maybe something else is going on, right? So that's the other thing. But it's like anything, like these things are already there. We navigate these things daily. We make daily decisions on certain things, which is why habits make sense. Like what Richie was saying, if there's an opportunity for you to further distract yourself, because you do need to reset your brain, like any mechanical thing. After a while, what happens? It breaks. You're no exception, right? And so we have to be mindful of that is, I'd like to take the reset when I decide to take it instead of when my body decides to take it, or even my mind, right? Your capacity. So I think, I like that, Richie, is just like anything is we have to be mindful of what it is and how it's serving. And if it's going against that and it's causing you actually more stress, then it doesn't make sense. So, Carmel, can you talk to us a little bit about gaming? Because I could see you be like a diehard gamer. I could just...
I don't, because of that reason. I am a very uber competitive, and so I did it while we were at SAIT, and that was, I won't say how many years ago that was, and I am one of those people that do break game controllers.
Why do people get so, like, why is it so, like I said, my experience is they're so in it. Richie, like, no offense, but I've never heard anyone or see anyone just say, I'm just playing this game and just do and all relax, love the story. Like, there's times where I'm at the Lawrence's house and they're in it. And I'm just like, so can we go back to watching RuPaul's Drag Race? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, they're just in it. And I'm just like, and when their dad gets here, oh my God, like it's over. So it's people get really competitive. Mm-hmm. And especially online, like, you're talking about people against the world. I guess you don't need to speak the language. You just need to play the game, right? Which is, I think, is a great connection.
Yeah, absolutely. The competitive nature is obviously something to take into consideration. I'm the same. I'm uber competitive. I think it's just in my blood growing up playing sports and stuff like that. I have to win, and I get a little upset with that when I have to win. But I've also kind of learned
a little upset.
It's also taught me that, like, that kind of perseverance of, okay, you can't win every time, right? So there is that lesson in there, but you have to be searching and open to that lesson, right? So if you just go in and I have to win no matter what, you're not going to get that lesson of, okay, this is why I lost, or okay, this is a learning experience in this, or something like that. So there's that different perspective and that mindset shift that you have to be aware of. Going back to that mindfulness of knowing what you're doing, and there's a lesson in everything.
I love that. Daryl, do you mind coming on for just 1 second? Because you watch a lot of sports, and I know, and you like, I'm not sure if we could tell how much you like the Flames, but you do a lot of that stuff. So do you game, Daryl? Like,
no, I don't game. I never have, actually, even when it first, me and John can relate when the graphics weren't quite the same. Never really got into it. I guess for me, it's more of a hands-on thing. Mm-hmm. So, and I totally get the reset, and it's like the lessons, Richie, are awesome, because it is important to find something to reset your brain. And I think with technology, people are comfortable with possibly getting into the gaming thing. Mm-hmm. Because it's incredible. You see how advanced that is, and you can get wrapped up into it a little bit and completely shut your brain off. Where I'd rather go outside and hit golf balls and get frustrated at that instead of a game. You know what I mean? So the reset is totally important, but for me, it's more of a hands-on thing. And I get this is hands-on too, in a much different virtual world kind of thing, but I think that's a choice, and I think it's an excellent choice for a lot of people. But like everything, it's not perfect for everybody.
So you're saying, Daryl, you would watch me get my ass kicked on Twitch. Is that what you're saying? Like, if I go on, like, you would watch that? You may not do it.
No, I would never want to see you get your ass kicked on Twitch or anything else. But I guess I grew up more of like playing sports as opposed to doing stuff online, and it's always been there and always been available. So that's me. And I talked to lots of people that play, you know, in that gaming world, and it is amazing stuff. I would just rather go out and do it my own, or watch a game. And going back to the playoff thing where it's at a different level and all that stuff, that is intriguing to me, how athletes can do that. And so that's more for me. But the reset tool that somebody finds is super critical, Richie, and you are bang on with that. And so were you, Kyle. If you need if it's not one thing it's going to distract you, you'll find another that's a indication of a bigger picture. So yeah.
Awesome. Daryl, thank you so much. Richie, thank you so much. How was this for you? These guys are not so bad, eh? These business owners.
No, that was fun. I was glad to kind of get out here and share my perspective and a little bit of my knowledge, and maybe hopefully give people a different point of view on the world of gaming and how to actually hit that reset button. Like Daryl said, it doesn't need to be video games, but it needs to be something.
I love that. And I appreciate you being here so early as well, because I know in the gaming world, you guys are resetting as we speak, right? And you guys are just gearing up
for an early morning for me. So
no, I appreciate that.
Bit of a night owl.
A little bit. Richie, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining today. Stay tuned for next week, where we're going to have, like I said, Raman, who's going to talk about Think Like a Recruiter. For those, what does that look like going back to a job or searching for a job and going from there. We will see you next Monday, so make sure you tune in and share this with everyone else. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. See you next week.